Yeah, 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 I run my fingers through her hair as she smiles and says that she loves me. Isn't it lovely when the one you lusting is the one you're loving?
Talking about Gaza. So the new president of Harvard, Claudine Gay, was under fire for the last several months because of, I guess all of the presidents of colleges were brought before a congressional hearing to be excoriated over their what it looked like acquiescence to anti-Semitism on their campus, as if, as somebody that went to a predominantly white school and had, the N-word scrawled on my board, and, several other students. It was 57 blacks on the campus of Drew University when I went there. And it was like hangman's noose. And, it was like all kinds of crazy stuff that happens on college campuses. Is it the college's fault? Probably. Maybe there's a culture there, but you bring in a lot of horrible people's children into your space, and they're going to do horrible children things. Fortunately, we knew how to handle that back then. That said, Claudine Gay's responsibility in response to what happened in Gaza and her campus and what have you, and Elise Stepanik with her performative fake outrage, put this woman in the crosshairs, right? So we know that UPenn or Yale's president stepped down a couple of weeks ago, and it looked like Claudine Gay was not going to have to. But then guess what, Kevin Powell and everybody, they found some plagiarism.
Yeah.
Suppose I'm putting up air quotes because it really doesn't amount to much. Because here's the reality. The president of university is not elected or positioned or sat in that seat to be the purveyor of academic excellence. They're there to raise money. That's what a president of a college does. They raise money. I don't think Lawrence Summers, who was the president of Harvard for a lot of years from 2001 to 2006, who also had the audacity to say that women didn't have the ability to do math and science. That's why they don't succeed at it. He was the president of Harvard. Said that dumb stuff. Clashed with the African American Studies Department. Didn't think that should have been a horrible person in terms of his perspective. Cornel West ran him out of Harvard. He was the president. Nobody, he got to sit there. And then I think Obama hired him, and he's been out in the streets saying some really problematic things for a number of years. Claudine Gay, as far as I know, is a real scholar. Y'all gonna go back? Please don't go back into my academic records. You're going to find some things. I'm just letting you know right now. I barely got out of college because I didn't give a damn about school. Let me just say that with my full chest. I always thought it was BS. So I spent my days at the seminary at Drew and hanging out with my college professors, not going to their class, having conversations with them. Because I recognized day one, it's hard to fail someone. So I didn't fail out. I graduated in 4 years, but I ain't graduate with a 4.0. Because I didn't see the value of that. I'm like, who's going to ask for my GPA? Nobody. So let me just get out in 4 years and start my life. Most of my academic pursuits have happened because as an adult, I value reading and knowing, right? But That's I'm right. saying you're going to dig back in this woman's damn college career and go back in her piece to find some little minute thing to hang her on. So today she had to because, she doesn't own Harvard. I'm saying that for a reason. She doesn't own Harvard. So, they put her in a dark room probably and said, hey, we just had a billionaire pull out some money. Lynn Blavatnik or Blavatnik, he just stopped his donations to Harvard. And, we don't want this to, be an avalanche of people not donating because you're sitting here. So you know what to do. So she did what she did today. She said, it is with heavy heart, but a deep love for Harvard that I write to share that I'll be stepping down as president. This is not a decision I came to easily. This was the statement that was released, that Claudine Gay released. I have a bunch of things that I think about this decision. Yeah. But I just want to remind everyone, Harvard has the largest endowment of any university in the history of universities. 2022 $50.9 billion they had an endowment. I mean, just that's just money they don't touch. That's the money, the interest of which they live off of. Like they're never gonna be without money. So you worried about one, two, three donors, and you have a $50.9 billion endowment, which is the largest of all of the schools, second to only Yale. Yale with $41.4 billion. You have $9 more billion in Yale, and you worried about a donor or optics? Like, do you stand for anything, Harvard? Is this woman capable? Is she qualified? Are you worried that she won't be able to get more money? Is that what it is when you got Obamas as your alums? Like, come on, y'all. What are we doing here? Kevin, what are your
Well,
thoughts?
I have a lot of thoughts. I mean, first of all, again, a few things can exist at the same time. We can be anti any form of oppression, be it racism, anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, and we should be. You and I both agree with that. We should be, but at this, I'm thinking about when I saw this happen with President McGill, who had to step down from UPenn, and now a woman, and now President Gay had to step down today from Harvard, a woman. A couple of things. One, women are put in these are in these positions and having to do cleanup for a lot of times for us men who have been in these positions, or like you mentioned, Lauren Summers, who had been Lauren Summers, right, who was the
Mm-hmm.
president of
Yep.
Harvard and saying all kinds of crazy stuff for years, and he got to carry on with his life. And she's being forced to step down. We need to be clear. People need to Google the New York Times article about these quote unquote plagiarism charges. One, it was a conservative group of people led the Washington Free Beacon, a conservative online journal that led this campaign over the last few weeks. It's the person who led the charge doesn't even identify themselves. Let's put this in context.
Cowards.
Karen, let's put this in
Cowards.
context. This is someone, Karen, calling Dr. Gay, who studied at Stanford and Harvard and has been on staff at Harvard since 2006, literally worked her way up to this presidency over the course of a decade and a half. And so I'm like, if there was actually any legit, and mind you, she said, I reject these allegations of plagiarism, but we know that we live in this got you era where people can just say anything on social media, as was said here, plant the seed, and all of a sudden this doubt. And I believe the real thing is, I don't think these folks care about anti-Semitism at all. I think they care about having a president that they can control. I think they care about not having a black woman president or a woman president in place because they're afraid, wait a minute, this person may actually forward Black studies and may forward gender studies, women's studies, may forward some things that are contrary to what we believe in, which is we believe that women and people of color and anyone who's other than us as conservative older white males, are not representing what we need them to represent. I think that's the real issue here. I believe that in my bones, that she's just a scapegoat, just like the president of UPenn, for some larger the larger movement here to just continue to push forward. Let's make America great again. Let's take back our country. And I think it's happening in academia. Now, let me say this as someone who started my life as a activist and a writer on a college campus, Rutgers University, during the anti-apartheid movement. Karen, you remember that time. It was explosive. It was happening at Harvard, Columbia, Rutgers, Stanford, UCLA, University of Texas. It was happening all over the country. In fact, it was happening all over the world, just like the conversations, heated and otherwise, about Israel and Palestine in 2024, right? The difference is that we as students were allowed, even if people didn't agree with everything we were saying, and we were taking over buildings, we were disrupting meetings, all kinds of stuff. It was understood that young people, students, no matter how old or young they are, have the right to use their voices because we believe in free speech, we believe in the First Amendment, all of that, right? And the hope is that people, if as they go through these growing pains of what they feel and say, and they going back and forth debating, that will actually make this a better democracy. Well, guess what? If I hadn't experienced that, where I had some very, very serious opinions about things as a 18 to 20-year-old at Rutgers University, 20 to 22-year-old at Rutgers University, Kevin Powell, who is now about challenging all forms of isms and phobias, I would argue would not even exist, because I can't even imagine being told, hey, if you take this position, whatever that position is on a college campus, you're not going to get a job. You're not going to get an internship. If you already got a job, an internship, we're going to take it away. If you're the president of the university, I'm going to hold you accountable for these students, and you got to step aside. That's what's happening. That's called McCarthyism. That's what's happening. And so I think that we got to be able to say we don't support oppression in any form. We don't support violence in any form. We support any kind of behavior that destroys any people in any form. But we also don't support behavior that is anti-democracy. Back to Ali Veshi when he was on your show a couple of months back. That's what he's talking about. This is about the fight for democracy. It's not about just about the presidential election. It's across the board. Can you, as a radio host, can you, as a college president, can you, as a student, can you, as a housewife or house husband or whatever you are, say what you feel without someone saying, I'm going to penalize you for it completely?
Yes.
Can you even ask a question without being penalized for it?
And for me, there's a larger question, right?
Yeah.
And that's a great question. 866-801-8255. Happy New Year, everyone. I don't know if I said that. Happy New Year to everyone. I wish everyone listening to my voice good health. I wish you joy and definitely prosperity in whatever form you want it. This Harvard thing has me thinking, as I grew up in a household where going to college was not an option, not going, rather. There was no option but to go to college. You know what I'm saying? That was the path. Everybody in my neighborhood was expected to go to college. And if you didn't go to college, something was wrong, inherently wrong. And then it was Ivy League because my parents had friends that went to Brown and they were like, oh, she's not going to make it if she doesn't go to Brown or Princeton or Yale. That was that pressure. Shout out to Kim Banks who made it into Princeton. And of course, I only applied to, like 2 schools and didn't get into either one of them. And ended up at Drew because my mother filled out the application behind my back. Shout out to you, Mom, because I probably, I would have gone somewhere, probably Rutgers. But you look at this world and we've set these hierarchies, right? So if you go to Harvard, that means you're going to be inducted into this secret society of brilliance, So we got Ketanji Brown Jackson and the Obamas, and Michelle went to Princeton and then to Harvard Law. That's and, right. It's like, right. There's, Hill Harper and, it goes on and on and on as somehow that's your pathway to success. And Harvard is the pinnacle. But I'm going to say this with my full chest as I get more and more knowledge. Why do we hold these, I want to call them structures, systems, these institutions in such high esteem? Have we been indoctrinated to believe something that may or may not be true? So since Veritas, it's rallying cry, Harvard's rallying cry is Veritas, which in Latin means truth, truthfulness, truth. Right. Let's tell the truth about this school that has $50 billion, $51 almost billion in an endowment. It is the birth of eugenics. At Harvard. Harvard gave birth to eugenics. Harvard gave birth to the study of master races and studying skulls and studying different species and determining that this one is a better race than the other. They were the purveyors of eugenics. And you can please Google search this. And also I stumbled upon this report because I was like, all of y'all want to go to Harvard, and that's fine. And there is, of course, a benefit to doing that because you're now part of a lot of very successful people who have gone to Harvard. They're going to look out. But this goes back to community though. The reason why Harvard is effective is because for 200 years, they've built this Ivy League, mystique. And then they have a lot of people in this group who are going to look out for each other. We should all kind of build that. Like we should all have that, at our disposal. But they have this report that I printed out. It's 137 pages. It's the report of the Presidential Committee on Harvard and the Legacy of Slavery.
Yes.
So I don't know and we're going to tweet it out because y'all should read this, right? Let's stop fictionalizing, George Washington, great first president, chopped down a cherry tree. That's a lie. Lincoln, when he did the Emancipation Proclamation, did not think very highly of Black people. He was not our savior. Most of our ancestors saved themselves, walked off of plantations, and then commenced at whipping ass. That said, 866-801-8255. This should be the year of truth. So I'm gonna commit myself to it. If I say something wrong, I guarantee somebody's gonna correct me, and I'm here for the correction. But I printed out this report because I was fascinated. I just want to read the table of contents, right? And again, it's the Presidential Committee on Harvard and the Legacy of Slavery. All right. So The introduction, slavery in the North. Most people don't know about it. I mean, this is a comprehensive look. Slavery and its legacy before and after the Civil War. There was slavery after the Civil War? A legacy of African American resistance. Part 2, slavery in New England and at Harvard. Part 3, financial ties, Harvard and the slavery economy. Part 4, intellectual leadership, Harvard, slavery, and its legacy before and after the Civil War. This is the kind of work I want to see. Part 5, the long legacies of slavery, segregation, marginalization, and resistance at Harvard. And then it goes through, women at Radcliffe, which is a sister school, 20th century vestiges of slavery at Harvard, and the complicated mentor of W.B. Du Bois. They have that in there. This is fascinating stuff. And then they got some recommendations afterwards. But I'm like, the history is right there if we care to seek it. And I'm only bringing this up because even as, some of you aspire to go to Harvard, or you aspire, you want your children to go to Harvard because they're going to make it. I'm going to say we all have a responsibility to make the kind of world that we want to see. And if we continuously validate these institutions that have this troublesome history. So I'm going to say Claudine Gay might have dodged a bullet being, having to step down from this. What she was doing was providing coverage. Do you know what I'm saying? They sat her there because, see, we're not racist. We have a black woman president. No, but you are racist because you let her go out on some trumped up BS plagiarisms for not citing a citation in her citations. Like, it was so very, very petty. But also, if it's about the money, you have enough money. Do you not have enough money to stand up for what's right? And if you don't, why do we put you on a pedestal? And we need to stop doing that with not just institutions, but with people.
I run my fingers through her hair as she smiles and says that she loves me. Isn't it lovely when the one you're lusting is the one